Craigslist would be like 7 days for free, right? And then it would fall off. You have to go in there and create a little quick ad again, 7 days. So I had on my calendar every 7 days. I had to like redo the little ad, you know, and it was free, but because I had read a book and this book said, and keep this in mind, guys. If people don't know about you, how do you expect them to do business with you? Hey. So exposure, expose. Have people look at your brand left and right wherever they go. Doesn't matter if you're just in one truck, but if you're doing estimates from east to west and you're everywhere in the city, they're going to see the brand. So that in their mind, they're like, whoa, what's up with this, you know, vivid landscape? They're always passing by left and right. Pasadena, Rancho, east, west. So then they get curious and they start looking you up. And they see something that they like. Then they refer you to a friend. Hey, look, this guy, you were looking for a landscaper, this guy. So it's exposure. People find out about you. Then they investigate you, and then it leads to doing business with you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Stay Shining, Stay Grinding podcast. I am your host, Carlos Castro, here with my co-host,
Jose Gallegos. What's going on, guys?
And we are the Stay Shining, Stay Grinding podcast. This is episode number 2 for those who are interested. Today's episode, we're going to highlight something very simple and something very important to the podcast. We're going to highlight Jose's business. We're going to ask him a series of questions and figure out where and why he started his business and where he's at today. So let's get it started.
Nice. Putting me on the spot. I love attention. Nah, I'm just being sarcastic. I don't like attention.
I'm going to start with like a simple question. When did you start your business?
So I started my business in 2016. Was when the dream started.
Okay. Yeah. You want to go into more detail with that? Like 2016, was that a particular reason why you started at 2016?
I started mainly my business in 2016 because for a couple reasons. And mind you, I did run into that feeling of like when you work for somebody and you feel like you're just so heavily invested into making everything work for them, but they don't value you in return. So it was a little bit of that mixed emotion with like, I was expecting my first child. So now I was like, I need to be able to provide more as a provider for my family now, you know? And then that's the year that really, for me, was like when it really, like everything clicked, everything put together, and I got the great awakening, you know, and said, you know what, I'm just going to start a business, landscaping business. But it was crazy because before that, I did do the transition of expecting my first child. I did I was in EMT school, did EMT school.
Okay.
Went for UCLA for a quick short program on paramedic. And it didn't feel right. It didn't feel like it sparked me up the way landscaping did, you know. And it is hard labor and it's hard work, but I just enjoy it.
Did you have like any experience before you started with like knowing and understanding what it was like to start a business? Like, did you ever because you did mention you did work with your father and then you also worked with other relatives of yours, but did you ever have like any knowledge of like getting the license, you know, having to go to some education for it and like understanding all the ins and outs of like making it legit?
No.
Because I know you did go through that process and you definitely had some hardship in that process, right?
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I was the first in my family that actually went into getting the whole license, getting everything, what we would say officially established as a business. So licensing, general liabilities, workers' compensation, getting all the credentials.
Let's start from the beginning, like from the part where you went online or wherever you went to look up what's the name of the license for
C27.
A C27. Let's start from there because I think you're jumping to you know you're saying.
Well, that's the thing. Like I didn't even know where to start.
Yeah,
I didn't even know that I knew that everyone talked about like, oh, la licencia, you know, like, oh, the license, la licencia, we don't have it. I'm like, what the heck, what is this license? Like, I would always tell my dad growing up, because my dad has his own business. He does lawn care. So I always grew up like, hey, you guys do really nice houses in the Pasadena, San Marino area. Why don't you put a nice logo or like a yard sign or something? Oh, no, we don't have the license. I'm like, well, what the heck is this license? What do you need it for? Oh, the city can give you a ticket if you don't have a license.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's like... So it was...
Did you ever ask like why they didn't have a license?
Yeah, and they said it's too hard to get. Oh, no se puede, you know, we can't, it's too hard to get, or, you know, we're not certified or something. In their world, in their mind, that's what they were facing at the time. So then when I decided to start my business, I didn't even like know where to start to where to get it. So I started asking a couple people. Funny thing is, like, I asked the people closest to me, and they're like, you can't get it. You're not capable of getting it. You're not qualified. You're not
So
certified.
they limit you even before you even got to that point. They limit you already. Yeah. And these people are family or friends?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
I say how it is, because I'm sure, like, I want other people to understand, like, you may be going through the same thing where you think you're asking the right person, but to be honest, sometimes you need to ask beyond the point of like close relatives, friends, because sometimes they don't guide you in the right direction. So that's kind of what happened to me, and I'm sure a lot of people go through it. And until that point where I started doing my own research and I started calling, and my girlfriend at the time, she was like, BS, you know, you could get your license. I said, well, they said I can't. So, well, what do you mean?
But did they tell you like why you couldn't get your license, or they just told you like
they said
like don't
try it.
Don't try it. Give up on that dream. Like, ignore it.
Yeah. So the first time, I was like, because I already knew someone in our family that hadn't attempted to get it. So then when I reached out, they're like, oh no, like, you don't even want to get into this business. Like, there's not even no money. Like, you should go a different direction. That's number one. Number two, I was like, well, I mean, come on. You guys never had your license, and you seem to be doing, good living. So then, and then he's like, oh, you're not certified. You need like years of experience with your taxes and all that. Which, you know, when I was growing up, all I did was I got paid cash. I didn't have taxes at the time and everything. So we don't know. That's how we're growing up and taught, you know, hey, cash under the table, whatever. Which I'm not saying it's okay, right? But that's the way it is. And a lot of people know it's normal. Like, that's what happens out.
So you've learned. So, okay. You really touched on a good point there, where you talk about how people who were around you were the ones that, one, influenced you to start a business, and two, to figure out what to do for the next level. Now, when you first approached them of considering to start a business like a landscape business, did a lot of them like either tell you not to do it at all before you even asked the license questions, or was it just like a general thing, like, don't get into this business, like nothing's gonna happen here for you? Or was it until you started asking more questions, like the license, the contracting, was that when like they started to like say, oh, this is not for you?
Yeah, so it was before I even started asking about the license, because I initially, you know, for us, when we grew up like in the maintenance industry, everyone's like dream as a worker is to have your own route. So I was like, hey, I'm just gonna have my own route, you know. I got thrown in the water at 17 years old, fresh out of high school. I had graduated high school at 17, because my month is like in October, so I hadn't turned 18 yet.
Okay.
And then, not because I'm too smart, guys. I'm not even smart like that, but you know, it was like a year type of thing. But graduated, and they were like, here's the keys to the truck. You got 2 workers, go handle it. And I was like, wait, I don't know how to manage these people. I don't know how to manage a route. Yeah. How do I even talk to customers, you know? Because I always grew up with working with my dad and my uncles, but they did all the, you know, the management of people, the 2 or 3 guys we had, or the management of the taking care of the clients. I was always like, my dad's like, hey, go charge the lady, because my dad's Spanish wasn't that great.
Or English.
His English wasn't that great, and he's like, hey, go charge her. We're done with the job. I'm like, no, dude, I'm super shy. Like, I'm not gonna. What am I gonna tell her? You guys know English. You guys need to go get in front of that door, knock on the door, and tell them, hey. So I mean, that's the way I started getting like, not I want to say comfortable, but it was nerve wracking. But I started getting in front of people and everything. So then my dream was to start the route. So when that conversation come up, they're like, nah, you shouldn't even get into this. Like, and maybe their intention was like, hey, just go to college and probably get a degree or something. I don't know. But it just didn't seem like they were helpful in the way of like, yeah, like, I mean, trust me, there's enough for everyone to go around. I tell all my employees, dude, all 30 of us could start a business today and there'll be plenty for all of us. Like, that's not nothing to be scared of. But, and then I started getting deeper into the license thing, and then they came up with like, nah, you can't get that. That's not for you. Like, you're not qualified. There's certifications you need, or there's certain things you need to apply for that you don't qualify for to get it. So I kind of like allowed that to kind of close the door a little bit. And then I was like, all right, cool. We'll just keep grinding it out,
So you feel, I mean, the way I see it right now is that I feel like they set their own limitations, their own personal limitations on you, saying like, if we couldn't do it, you're not going to be able to do it either.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a culture thing, and with us, and like people that if it doesn't work out for them, and it's the environment we grow up on, if they were limited to certain resources, they're like, oh, you can't do it either, like especially when they have big egos and they think, oh, I'm the top dog. I couldn't do it. How the heck are you gonna do it? And it's like everyone, in a sense, is its own world, and every mind is its own world. People of all different aspects can have different way of thinking, and I thought different at the time, and nothing was different about me. Just that I was so much more hungrier, and I was willing to figure it out and knock on more doors than they ever knocked off, or anyone knocked off, right, in my family. So. But yeah, big help was my girlfriend at the time. She was like, nah, heck no. Like, what do you mean you can't get this license? Like, you could get the license. Why don't you call the school? And I said, well, what school? Well, let's look it up, So, we looked it up and we called, and like, they were right. They're like, you don't have if you don't have the taxes for working and experience 4 to 6 years, you can't get the license.
Oh.
They said, but if you find someone that has a license that's willing to sign for you as a letter of recommendation, then we're more than happy to get you through the course. And it was the course for landscape contractor took about 10 months. And obviously no one that I knew had a license. So then I was like, damn, that closes another door, And at the time, I remember one time we had a conversation with my father-in-law, and he was like, wait, what do you need? And I was like, I just need someone that has a license to sign a letter, and like, I'm willing to pay for it. I was like, whatever. He was like, hey, there's this guy that goes into my restaurant, because he's in the restaurant industry. And he was like, he's a landscaper, and he always has his logo. He walks in with his wife. He eats all the time here. I'm going to ask him if he has a license. So a couple weeks went by, touched base again. He's like, hey, the guy has a license and everything. I told him about you, and he says he wants you to sit down with you. Mind you, that I don't know this guy. Never seen him in my life. Don't know who he is. He doesn't know who I am. He doesn't know anything about me. Willing to help. Hey, I'll help him out, but I need to talk to him first. I think he wanted to get a feel of who I am and what my
your purpose was.
Yeah, my purpose, my vision, my idea. So sit down with him. Another couple weeks go by, and like they're going by forever because I was anxious. I was like, dude, like, let's get this going. And then he, we sat down, and he was like, hey, so tell me what you want to do with this license. So I want to start a business. I'm gonna have a kid. I'm expecting my first child. I'm hungry. I want to start a business. I want to like help people. And we were just talking, and he was like, okay. He's like, we'll see you back here. Like, I think he gave me like another week. Saw him back there. Oh, and I told him like, oh, well, how much is this going to cost? Because I need to be prepared. And he's like, I'm not charging you anything. What are you talking about? Like, I'm going to help you out, dude. He's like, all I could do, and it's true because we talked about this with like so much information that's out there. He's like, I can provide you with the resources that you need, but at the end of the day, it's up to you. What are you going to do once you have that? How far will you run with it? Well, to what extent are you going to take and use it the way you need to use it? You can have the license and not know how to move around and how to have resources, build connections, and build a good team. So I was like, okay. So he trusted in me. He trusted into what I was telling him. Came back. He had the paperwork signed. I thanked him. Couldn't thank him enough. And I was like, good. He's like, well, don't forget me when you're big. And I was like, dude, if I have fucking one employee, I'll be happy. So then moving forward, I went to the school. They accepted all the paperwork. They even knew who he was because he had helped like 5-6 other people before that. Oh, Mr. Rasso, Señor Rasso, shout out, man. It's because of this guy, like he was like, oh, this guy has helped like a couple other guys. He's a good guy. I'm like, dude, that's awesome. So I took the course, and then, moving forward, that's late 2016 was when I got my license. Mm-hmm. So the process took almost a year.
So coming across this guy, now I'm gonna ask you like some questions a question that when you came across this guy and then you told the other people that told you this was not possible, how was that discussion brought, and how did they feel about that once you told them that?
When I told them that I was able to get someone to get the license.
Yeah, like once you figured out like, hey, I actually can get the license. I am moving forward to get the license, and I'm in the process of getting the license. Like all these people that said no, you couldn't do it. How was their reaction to this?
I mean, to be honest, it was like the conversation is kind of like, well, you know how it is. Something I try to keep it like low key. Like I try to keep it like I'm gonna be quiet about this, and I'm just gonna like, what's up, man? I have my license,
Oh, so they didn't know.
Yeah, they didn't know till when I got my license. I had made a call, and I was like, hey, you want to work together because I have a license, this and that. Wait, what? You have a license? I'm like, yeah, I got my license, C27 certified, baby. And then he was like, oh, like the heck, like he was like, how did you get that? And then so we had a conversation, and then for me early on, I always envisioned and I had the vision of like marketing, like branding, logos, like, so dude, freaking as soon as I got my license, like came up with the name Vivid Landscape, and I went to go run down the street with my buddy and then made a hat, made a shirt, and I would always rock it. I had no employees, no business. I was just rocking. I was so happy, like Vivid. This guy was like, this guy, like.
It's funny you mentioned that you mentioned that you right when you got your license, you went straight to marketing yourself instantly. Yeah. Even before you even had employees or clients or anybody, you jumped to that space. How about you go into more detail about that and what influenced you to do that and why you did that?
That's funny because you know how going back to when I worked with my dad, and I would always be like, how come you don't put those yard signs up? He's like, because we don't have the license. When I got my license, the first thing I want to do is put a goddamn yard sign and say, this is Vivid Landscape Inc., And when I would be like, how come you guys don't get bigger businesses like shopping centers or, industrial, commercial? Oh, because they require a license and the brand needs to be established. Shit. The first time I got my license, I just got a yard sign, got a shirt, the hat, and I would just wear it. And I didn't even have business yet. It was till a little bit after the first couple houses that I obtained for like maintenance, because I started really heavily in maintenance. My dad gave me like, I think it was about 6 properties. He's like, here, start off with this. First thing he told me, do a good job, over deliver, don't half-ass anything, and be honest with people, and they're gonna start recommending you. That's what I recommend, guys. And from there, I took his advice. I was so detailed with like the way I did the weed whacker, the way I pulled the weeds, everything. And then I just asked him, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I'm actually a growing company. My dad helped me. Yeah, Tony told us that you're going to be taking over. Yeah, if you have any friends, family that can help me out, I'm willing. I want to grow my business. Good. Okay. So little by little, they started coming in. I had an uncle that left to Oklahoma, and it was like perfect timing. He had a route, and he was like, hey, I'm leaving California. I'm going to Oklahoma. I need to sell my business. And I said, I'm here, So I jumped on that, and that helped me grab a little bit of more exposure. And same thing, branding and everything. And when I started branding, and because for me, I understood the vision of like branding it. Like I didn't want it to be like Martinez Landscaping. Like that's all cool and everything, but I wanted it to be something that didn't connect directly to me. If someone saw Vivid Landscape Inc., they would call and be like, "Hi, I'm looking to get an estimate." They wouldn't be like, "Hey, Jose," or "Hey, Mr. Martinez," like, because it's too tight to me. I wanted something that would stand out and people would simple and clean, and people would always not know that like Jose Gallegos is the guy for Vivid Landscape. Because if it grows, I thought if it grows, people are going to be interested in the brand, and it's also good for an exit strategy, you know. So I don't know why I understood that early on. It's just kind of like, I don't know if it was a dawn or something that I had.
Was there any influences, like any books or anybody you listened to? Or
that's true. Very early on, that's when what's his name? He was big on marketing and everything. There was a guy on Instagram and YouTube very early on. This was like many years ago, and he was about branding, and that's when I started falling into it opened up the gateway to personal development. And that's when I started like going heavy into YouTube. And then I started following this guy, Andy Frisella. That's when I first started my business. It was a podcast about personal development and business, being a better you and better like for the people around you. And that was like major influence too. Cause I don't have an associate, I don't have anything about business. I just started to learn it as I went.
So you learned on the job.
Learn on the job, learn on the books, learn on the podcast, and just consuming information that is free.
And you read a lot, so a lot of this information was also through books, right?
Yeah.
You picked up and bought a lot of books, and it's crazy to know that, like, okay, you only have a high school education, but you're still able to grasp the aspect that, like, a lot of the information that people display out to like the world is usually in books. Like they get the information from books. So you learned that early on that like getting books and engaging yourself into books was a huge factor. And that's one thing I admire from you, is that you stay educating yourself. You don't get to a point where you're like, okay, I'm here, I can coast it. No, like you get here and you're like, okay, how do I get there now?
Yeah.
And like every time I notice that you're continuously always trying to figure out what is the next thing.
Yeah.
Once you get like you got, let's say you got 5 trucks, you're like, okay, now how do I get 10?
Yep.
And you're continuously doing that. And that's a huge component that I've noticed from you, that like what makes you stick out from anybody else out there that does this stuff and who can relate to you, that you're always, one, educating yourself, and 2, you're always focused on what's next at task. And that's why you're here 6 years later, like being able to sit here, being able to chill when 6 years ago you were stressed because you were going to have a child. You had no idea of what to do and how to get here.
And no money.
No money. And then 3, all you needed was that one person.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because you stayed persistent. Yeah. You could have just said, all right, well then I guess I can't get a license.
Yeah.
Or I guess that's it. Like I should listen to my family and my friends that, and
it's not for us.
It's not for us. So you said, nah, this is not the life I want.
Nah.
This is not the life I want. So how about we talk about how you say you talked about going straight with lawn care. What helped you expand to the aspect of doing landscaping? Like where did this shift come in? Because you did do lawn care for a couple of years, and that was like your prime focus. And every once in a while, you get a couple of landscape jobs,
mulching job or something.
But I do remember at one point in your business that like you finally like split. So when was that time that happened?
So when I split, I want to say, maybe 2017, almost like a year later, year and a half later.
Damn.
Just quickly, things were just going quick, and the big reason why we stepped into the landscape hardscape division, and we have a good reputation there, because I have one of my uncles that had done this previously for 20 years. You know, they had their own small business, and they were doing things, and he's very good at he's creative, and he's good at installing and everything. So I called him up and I said, hey, I'm starting to get calls for like pavers. I've never done pavers or a block wall, and I was wondering if we can work together and work something out. Mind you, they had their own business, whether it was small, but they were always used to working for themselves. So first thing he's like, yeah, nah, I'm good. Like I have my own thing. I was like, well, you guys are not really working, and maybe I have the idea of going on the internet and getting a lot of exposure, and then we're gonna get calls. Oh, the internet is a scam. Be careful with the internet. The internet is a fraud. They might steal your identity. They might steal your information. I said, no, things are developing in a different way nowadays. We can market. We can do ads, and they even have Craigslist. I was like, my first ads were on Craigslist. I swear to God, it was free, and I got a couple jobs from it too. So, long story short, he joined our team. We worked together for.
Hold on, you touched some very key things there that are often ignored. I feel are ignored. You literally utilize so many. Oh wait, hold on. My mic is off. Okay, hold on. You touched a couple of on a couple of good things there that are usually ignored. Like you went above and beyond. You literally, and this is one thing, me as a business owner too, that I work with other businesses and media, and one thing that I always try to tell people is everybody's so focused on like the bigger companies where they have to pay for ad services or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, there's organic growth, and there's places that you can tap in to where you don't have to pay all this money a month to, advertise your business. You can do it organically. You can do it with the free stuff. Yes, it takes much longer. Yes, it's harder to get to that point of success, but the payoff is so much better. And it's funny how Jose literally, like, with no money in his pocket, he's like, I got to figure out how to market my business. I got to figure out where to go. You just said Craigslist.
It's exposure.
You went on Craigslist. Who the hell goes on Craigslist nowadays? But at the time, he's like, yo, I can market myself through Craigslist, and it's free.
I got some good gigs off of that too.
And that's nuts that like you really went to that. I didn't even know about that. I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
But all right. Continue. Sorry.
Craigslist, OfferUp, because OfferUp came up after a little bit after. And it was a Facebook. I was like marketing on like free ads on Facebook or whatever. And it's funny, Craigslist would be like 7 days for free, right? And then it would fall off. You have to go in there and create a little quick ad again. 7 days. So I had on my calendar every 7 days. I had to like redo the little ad, and it was free, but because I had read a book, and this book said, and keep this in mind, guys. If people don't know about you, how do you expect them to do business with you? Hey. So exposure. Expose. Have people look at your brand left and right wherever they go. Doesn't matter if you're just in one truck, but if you're doing estimates from east to west and you're everywhere in the city, they're gonna see the brand. So that in their mind, they're like, "Whoa, what's up with this? Vivid landscape." They're always passing by left and right, Pasadena, Rancho, east, west. So then they get curious and they start looking you up, and they see something that they like. Then they refer you to a friend. Hey, look, this guy, you were looking for a landscaper, this guy. So it's exposure. People find out about you. Then they investigate you, and then it leads to doing business with you. But that's just one end. The other one is you being a good salesman, or you just being good into closing the deal. So being
that's something naturally that you learned with your dad when you first started, where he told you, hey, you need to go collect that check.
Yeah.
And that was uncomfortable, and situations that you weren't familiar with at 17 years old. You were like, man, what do I do? How do I handle it? Hey, Mr. So-and-so. Yeah. Like, and those are situations that like prepared you.
Oh yeah.
For where you were at the time that we're talking about right now, where you got with your uncle and you decided, hey, let's work. So your uncle decided to work with you.
Yeah.
You brought him into the team. Let's go from there.
Yeah. So once he joined us, then anything that would come our way. I mean, you name it: pavers, block walls, wood fences, artificial grass, water features. I mean, this guy has talent, super talented. So then that gave me security and comfort in a way. It backed me up. Any call I would get, yeah, we can do it. Yes, we can do it. So we're how do you say it? When you don't only do one thing, like for example, people focus on just turf, but you're able to do multiple different types of projects. And he always told me that, it's good to have a wide span of things to do, because if it gets slow for the tree trimmers, you're slow for the rest of the season. If it gets slow for the artificial grass, that's all you do. You're slow. So sometimes they'll call you for turf, sometimes they'll call you for pavers, sometimes they'll call you for a block wall, for a lawn install. So I said, okay, good to know. So we're kind of feeding off of their experience, and we ran with that for a good 17, 18, 19, 20. For 2021 was when we split ways. He ended up going and helping his son. They started their company. They're doing great. And I just took the knowledge, everything that he passed down to us. I took it and I ran with it. And it was that year, 2021, when things just exploded. I went from running just one crew to 4, now 5 crews at the same time. Because I always looked at business differently than they did. In a way, I was a little restricted there, because if I said, hey, teach Joe, teach Albert to lay block. Oh, you don't want Albert to lay block. I'll do the block. Oh, okay. Hey, well, can you teach Frank to do the pavers? Oh, you don't want Frank to learn the pavers. I'll do the pavers. And yeah, so I was always like, dude, but if you train and develop, we can multiply what we're doing. One crew goes to 2 crews, 2 crews goes to 3 crews. But it was always like, no, slow down, slow your horses.
So you felt like it was very reserved. You didn't at the time of this situation, because you say this was 2021. This was about a year ago already at this point. More than a year ago. Yeah. It was in the beginning of 2021, right?
No, when everything happened, like the split, shift, it was like middle October.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, so it was a year
barely
ago.
A year ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, damn, that's crazy. Okay, because I say it's great. I say it's crazy because I was there with him already by this point. Yeah. So I experienced that experience with him, and I feel like there's a lot of detail that he didn't include in it, which we're gonna pick at it because it's important. It's super important, and there's a big reason why. But my question that I was coming up with this was, were you like feeling that already, that like something needed to happen? Did you feel what was going on? Why wasn't I growing? How come I couldn't get more crews? Did you understand anything at that point before the split that you felt like there's something that needs to be done? So I don't know, like there's an uncomfortability, especially you being somebody who's very ambitious and who's always focused on like the next thing and what's next and where to go. Did you ever like recognize anything that you noticed, like, okay, what's going on? I feel very stagnant.
Yeah, there definitely was. And it was starting to like hold me down more and more as time went by, because whenever I had a creative idea of like, hey, what if we split and do this? It was always like, no, like that's not the right thing to do. Or, as me, at the time, I think I had probably maybe 10, 12 employees. Hey, I'll be back. I'm going to do an estimate. Oh, you can't be doing that. You got to be here with us, and you can't be going on. I said, oh, dude, but if I can't sell, then how do we keep the pipeline full? And if we can't keep the pipeline full, how do we keep the employees working? Well, you can't. You got to be here. And it was very hard, I guess, because the way they had business, or they understood business, is you as the main guy or the owner of the business had to be the installer. Mm-hmm. And no one else could install because they weren't good enough in their world.
In their world, yeah.
Because people are super smart and they're willing to learn and execute. But the way I saw it, I was like, it's very limiting. I said, I can't grow like this. I have to go and sell. So I need a foreman on site that can handle the job. And then, I need customer service. I need to show the other customers samples and stuff like that. And then, again, it's very important that whoever is there with the team knows how to treat the team right and give them, we can't be leaving super late either. We have to have lunch at the right time. I mean, there's a lot of factors that if you treat your team right, they'll put their hands in fire for you. And that wasn't happening. So things were kind of like hard there. And so when it did happen, it was like, not in a bad way, but it was a good thing in a way that kind of things happen. They say God does his work where he needs to do it. So they're good and we're super good. So it's like,
at the same time that this all this madness happened, where so many things started to rise for you, you started to realize, hey, there's a shift in this. Hey, I want to grow. Hey, what's going on? You also got like one of your biggest projects ever at the time. It was one of your biggest projects ever that you ever got in. And I remember how stoked and excited you were to start this project. We won't go too much into detail with the project itself, but the project, this was one of your biggest projects that, one, you learned a lot from. Yeah. Like, you learned a lot from this project. That going in, you were a young, lack for a better word, naive guy who
hungry, blind.
Hungry, blind, and you didn't understand how to handle the situation. But so much growth came from that one project. So much growth, because like it's all tied in, dude. And I'm here to tell you that I'm here as an individual that it was part of that cycle, but I also analyzed the cycle from outside. And it's interesting to notice that how his growth has developed in the year. That's crazy. It's only been a year. How his growth has developed and where his life is when he got to that plateau where he was like, where you were like, I don't know what's going on, but I feel like we're very stagnant.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, you get a bump, and that bump comes in, changes everything for you.
That was like explosive.
It creates a whole different environment, a whole different understanding. And I remember at times when throughout this project, the level of stress that this guy had. And I remember a couple of times you told me, I think I'm just going to stay small. Like, I think I'm just going to have like one crew, maybe two if I want to, because of how high you jumped, obviously, and not understanding what was there.
Yeah.
But in the process of all this, and in the process of growing and stuff, and you landed your biggest project at that time, when you also were having a rocky experience and a rocky relationship with the uncle that you decided to jump in with.
Yeah.
So how was that experience like? One, landing your biggest project ever, and then two, knowing that like your guys' relationship wasn't really as balanced as it was when you first started.
Yeah. And regarding the project, I mean, to me, it was like I couldn't even believe it, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, because it's a whole different animal. I went from mowing lawns for $60-$70 a month to then I would get excited when I get a $500 account. Then I started getting some shopping centers, and then from there I started doing residential landscape. Never went over like $20,000 project. That to me was like, bro, we're killing it, $20,000. And so when I got this job, it was a whole different whale. Like it was, upwards of $200,000. Never have ever thought like, holy crap, I can do a project this big. But it was really exciting. The emotions were too mixed up, which at the time were wrong. I learned that from finishing that job, that need to make better. I learned that the decisions need to come more for logical and strategical than emotion. And I put a lot of emotion there because like you said, I was naive. I was hungry. I was like, I didn't want to let that project go. So was a very, very cool learning experience. And I take that everywhere I go because that's what life is about. And business is about learning experiences that make you better along the way for the future. So I took that. And as far as like the relationship, business wise, it was rocky. Personal wise, it was cool. Like everything's cool, you know. I'm not going to sit here and take things in the personal matter. But in business perspective, it was rocky because I feel like I was chained up, dude. Like, and I didn't like it. I wanted to break free, and sometimes I didn't even have the authority that I should have had. You know, hey, like if we need to split, bro, we need to split. You know what I mean? It's not like, and without the respect and everything, but like who fucking signs the checks? You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to like do better for everybody, but it's like no, you know, chill. But that project was so big, so massive that I learned that it's super important for more than one person to be skilled. And that was like the breaking curve for me because the project had fire pits, barbecue islands, like $8,000. I mean, sorry, 8,000 square feet of pavers. I mean, it was a clean slate. It was massive. And imagine having only one installer for a project that's going to be like 4 months long. Imagine the toll you're going to put on the employee, the stress he's going to have because he looking around and, oh, shit, I'm not even done with the block wall and I still have pavers. So stress on top of stress on top of stress. Why? Because you don't have any more trained, skilled, developed employees. So if you would have had it trained the way I looked at it, I was like, dude, I could have had guys on the block wall. I could have had guys prepping for like the gas, irrigation. I could have had guys doing pavers when it was already ready. I could have had pouring, you know what I mean? There was different areas of the property you could have worked on, sped up the process, and executed in a timely manner. But because only one guy wants to run the show, it limits. I mean, you can't have 10 laborers just shoveling dirt for you, bringing you a bowl of mixed spec mix or whatever. You got to have guys in action. And the guys wanted the action. But even them, they felt like they were, at the time, restricted and restrained. Like, bro, I could do more for you. I can help you more. Just give me a chance. I said, yeah, learn. Yeah, but they don't let me. You know, fuck out of here. Like, if I could barely do it, like, you're not going to do it. And I was like, why? Why not give these people a chance? Like, they're hungry for it too. And they're willing, if you give them the chance, they're willing to prove themselves of the capacity that they can help you execute whatever task you put in front of them. So that project taught us a lot. It was smooth. Everything was good. Installation wise, I had some issues with the homeowner and, you know, the business part of it, but that was my fault. And that's a story probably for another day. But that project taught us a whole bunch and more, man. That like I felt like I got 10 years of experience in business just in that project because it all just clicked in and it helped me like be pay more attention to everything.
This was your make it or break it moment.
Yeah,
I think
because I almost lost my shit.
Yeah, I think this was like your serious make it or break it moment.
Yeah,
and this is where all those years of being persistent, asking the right questions, you know, not accepting the no's and continuing to grow and you know, those relationships you created with those homeowners, and those homeowners, you know, sending you to other people, and all that time and effort. This one project was the moment for you to like display all that and to know either this can be a growing experience and I learned from this, or this is it for Vivid. Yeah, and I do remember that at the time you did come off very like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it out of this. And moving forward, because I think this particular subject that we're talking about right now, we can save it for another episode because there's a lot that's intertwined with it. But moving forward, once you completed the project, you moved forward from this project, I think you only had maybe one project with him after that, and then that was it, right? So then you guys split. You know, he decided to start his own business with his son, and which they're doing well. And you know, like, the thing about Jose that people need to understand, and he says this all the time, he has no envy. He's got no hatred towards anybody that will like do something like that. You know, he started this business himself. He got his uncle into the business with him. His uncle couldn't handle the level of stress realistically. And then it got to a point where his uncle was like, well, let me just go do something else with my son at the level and rate that I'm more comfortable with. And then Jose over here was, and at the time that this all happened, I was around, so I understand it. But at the time that all this happened, you got COVID too.
Yeah.
So you were trapped.
I couldn't fucking get out of my house and save my business. You know, I was like, holy crap. You know, why do this to me now?
I remember you. I was going to the projects myself already to like record and for, you know, content for marketing purposes and stuff. And I remember calling him on the phone, and I remember calling him, and he was all eager, like, oh, so who's there?
How's it going?
How's it going? What are the guys doing? What are they building? Da 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 da. Whoop de whoop. And I just remember telling him, bro, like, they have it under control. Like, you're good.
Like, that was their moment too.
Yeah,
right?
it was like you're like, I remember just going to the project and being like, bro, you're good. Like, if I'm telling you you're good from an outside perspective, somebody that's been with you for so many years, like, for me to tell you you're good, like, I know at the moment you're like, oh fuck, I don't know, I don't think that's like legit. I don't believe you.
What the fuck's going on?
Yeah, especially like being sick and like you couldn't really see it, but just me being there and experiencing that, and I was like, dude, like,
everything's under control.
You're good. I was like, I just remember that phone call, and I remember that phone call like clearly, and I remember I kept trying to tell you, like, hey man, maybe this needed to happen. Hey man, like, you're good. Like, you're gonna be shocked. Like, and you know, I remember that whole situation, and I remember the whole like transition that happened from you working with your uncle, and then from not, because he was the guy that was designing everything, pretty much like designing and like putting everything together, putting the blocks in, putting the pavers in. He was doing everything himself, when there's other companies out there that have multiple people on their ship that have the same skills as he does. And a big component that may have stopped him was the fact that like he thought he might have been replaced if he would have taught other people. And that's just from my perspective. It's not from Jose's perspective. It's not from anybody's perspective, but that's just my perspective. And the simple understanding is going back to your childhood and what brought you to go to where you're at right now, where the limitations, people set limitations for themselves without even knowing what was at the other side of that window or other side of that door.
Exactly.
You know, all your family members and relatives were like, don't get your license and stuff like that, because they got one no. They got one no, or somebody just like them told him, don't do it, da 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 da. And they went with that, and they spent their whole entire life with that dynamic. So I feel like with the aspect of your relative, your uncle that you decided to go to business with, he may have had some experience in his past that, you know, made him feel reserved about teaching or growing or doing anything like that with other people. And that dynamic changed for him. He's working with his son now. His son's business is a lot smaller than yours at this point, but that reservation of not teaching and showing other people limited the fact that Jose had plans already, saying like, look, you're not going to be replaced. Nothing's going to happen. Like, if anything, you're going to have less stress because you're going to be teaching all these people.
For me, I was always big on creating down to upward. I never wanted to see my guy for 3-4 years pick and shovel. Because where's the growth? Where's the opportunity for his family and even for us? I wanted to see that guy go from, journeyman or apprentice to journeyman to foreman.
Mm-hmm.
I told him, hey, I have a project manager vision for you. You're so good, so talented. You can go and oversee the projects and make sure everything's in line. And that way we can make, this guy and this guy and this guy the next foremans. Oh, that's bullshit. That's never going to happen. And I was like, well, why not? Because they can't do it. They I fuck up. What makes you think? So then that's, for me, like I was always like I wanted to grow, of course, but I'm big on growing with my team.
Yeah.
I'm big of bringing people up, not just, they say lead by example or be the leader. And like, that doesn't mean I'm going to buzz my balls doing fucking pick and shovel because I want them to do hardcore pick and shovel, you know? I want to lead by creating opportunity. Hey, I'm working my ass off too. I'm going and estimating. I'm sending out my estimates. I'm in the computer. I'm in the office. I'm doing what I need to do to create more opportunity for you guys.
And at the time, you were still also working.
Yeah, I was on the field.
Like, you were still also working. You were still on the field. You were still shoveling.
I barely stopped technically working a year ago. Right?
Yeah. Give or take, yeah.
Like about a year ago.
Yeah.
That's when I officially stopped shoveling. I remember you would show up at the job sites and you're like, Jose, dude, let go of that shovel. And I'm like,
yeah, I remember,
can't help myself.
I remember telling him, like, we'd be on the phone, and this is a reason why this podcast started, because like we would always just we would sit on the phone for like an hour. We're like fucking boyfriend and girlfriend. Like, we sit on the phone for like an hour, maybe 2, and we just talk. And whether it would be his stuff or my stuff, whatever the situation was. And I remember telling him one time, I said, bro, like, if you have a shovel in your hand, you're not doing the right thing. At the level that he was. And for him, it was hard to understand because, again, he was in there. He was doing the do there. He didn't step out of the situation because he couldn't step out of the situation. But from the perspective of somebody outside, I told him, if there's a shovel in your hand, you're not doing the right thing. And I hope that imprinted something in his brain.
Oh, big time. Especially because, like I said, it was always like the emotional version of myself saying, oh, man, what are they going to say if I just come and like measure or like boss them around or whatever? Like, I wanted to be looked at like, a hardworking boss or whatever. And you're like, bro, do you not understand that the respect of who you are is not because of how hard you labor into the pick and shovel? It's because of how in the direction that you're headed with these guys, and you're putting a vision in front of them, and you're directing them into this way and the way that is up, not down. They have security here. I remember you told me that these guys want security, bro. They don't want you calling, hey, we don't have work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so we'll see you Monday. These guys want to grind it out, and they want to be safe. And by you doing your job, that's the respect. That's how you get the respect, by, showing up every day, getting the work done on and off the field, project managing, teaching them, developing them. So then they're like, damn, this guy, I have no secrets. There's no secrets to my business. Like, I tell all my guys, dude, learn this and you get better pay. Or, hey, are you ready for being a foreman? Oh, I don't know, man. Yeah, you're ready. Come on, let's get you started. So that's the way I looked at it. And when you told me that, I was like, dude, you know what? I don't have to prove or be embarrassed or shy that I'm not working. I can show up on the job. The company is big enough. If I waste an hour there, I could be more productive in the, with the direction of the company for an hour, or closing more deals in an hour than the benefit of like, shoveling hardcore or whatever.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that, but it's just like there's the levels of like the size of your business. When you're first year, second year, you have to bust your fucking
that's what
balls.
I'm doing right now. Yeah.
Be involved on the field, labor, not labor, business, no business, human resources, everything. You have to wear all the hats.
Yeah.
But the only way you can scale is by learning how to delegate the roles and having people that are good enough or smarter than me or creative take that role. Hey, you're the project manager, you're the foreman. I need a salesman now, Any salesmen out there, hit me up.
And so in the process of growing to this point of shifting and growing and learning, you began to realize that a lot of people that you hired were teachable and already had the skills already to do this stuff. And you realize, like, man, like, I can do more to this. Because when all this happened, it was what, one crew?
Yeah, it was just one crew.
And how many crews do you have now?
5 in landscape. 10 in total, because I have the lawn care. 4 lawn care crews. I have 5 landscape construction crews, and I have 1 irrigation tech. So, and that's all the power of training and developing and trusting the people that you're hiring. Because these guys were also like savages, beasts, ready to explode, but they were so restricted. They were chained up. They weren't allowed. So when I said, you know what, and this goes back to the other day I went to the construction material place. I think I told you, and then they were like, hey, can I ask you a question? I was like, yeah. I was like, where the fuck do you find these guys? We see your videos, the content you have, and these guys do great work. And that felt good because I was like, dude, like,
it's paying off.
They don't, yeah, it's paying off. Like they don't come. God doesn't send them as the talented, gifted people they are. I work with them. I train them. I develop them. I talk to them. I give them some life tips, some personal tips, some working tips. Like we build a relationship. That's the culture that I always envisioned. So when he's like, dude, like these guys are building all kinds of crazy shit. Wow, dude, like that paid off. That felt so good because that's the accomplishment that I wanted. Like not just have like a very small crew. And it's not even like about the size of the company. Is not, for me, it's not about the money that flows in or flows out, whatever. It's seeing people grow with me. That's for me was big. And when I get a new guy, it still is because, man, sometimes I feel like it's a warm up right now. I remember one time we went to the city and I was trying to get a park, and the city told me there's only 2 companies that are big enough to handle parks. 2 companies. And I was like, okay. And I know who the companies are because they're really big companies, but they're like, we wouldn't give business to little companies because we don't just give you one park. You need to handle north of Azusa, south of Azusa. That means you're getting 25, 30 parks. You need to be big enough. And when I had the conversation, a cool guy and everything, not disrespectful, but I was like, bro, I set my mind. So I'm like, I'm going to come
next?
back. Yeah, I'm going to come back and get all these parks, bro. Like, and we're building towards that. I'm patient though, little by little. Every step of the way has to be, well enough calculated to understand that there's risk and understand that there's reward. But I do chew on more than what I can swallow sometimes because I'm a risk taker like that. I do things sometimes without even having the plan of how I'm going to do it. I take on projects sometimes that I don't even know how I'm going to do it, but I figure it out on the way. I talk to my team, hey guys, we haven't done this before, but we're going to knock it out the park. And we do. So I'm like, dude, thank the Lord that, we're able to communicate that with my team. They're able to be, like you said, they're coachable. They listen. They're open-minded. They're, fucking don't tell me what to do, dude. I'm the masonry guy here. You don't, no, dude, listen here. This is the way I think it should be done. But what I love about them, they put their input. Hey, Jose, I that's cool, but I think that if we do it this way, it'd be a lot better. You know what? Knock it out the park, dude. This is not about my way or the highway. This is about working together. And if you can bring your ideas and build off of mine and even better, I'm all for that, But you have to allow them to trust you that you're open to listening to them. But a lot of people don't. A lot of people say, if you don't do it the way I'm teaching you how to do it, fuck out of here. That's not the way sometimes to do it. You have to allow them to be creative, to open up their creativity, their mind span, and say, how can I solve this problem? Because if not, they're always going to be. And I had that issue, remember, early on. They're always calling me, hey, how do I do this? How do I do that? How do I solve for X? How do I solve for Y? Bro, be creative. I trust you that you will make the right decision. And that developed into I still get calls, but it's normal. But the guys know that when they're on site, they're have the ability. Yeah, they're in charge to make it right. So it's been cool. It's paying off little by little. So
before we wrap this up, let's see. I wanted to ask you what your plans are for the next 5 years. What is your initial goal? Where do you want Vivid Landscape to be in the next 5 years? We're gonna touch back on this whole situation throughout the podcast series for as long as we we go on, as long as people keep listening to us. We'll touch back on this stuff because there's so many things that we still didn't talk about that make a lot of sense and show us like why he's here today. Like, he's in an office space. This guy started off with literally nothing, and now he's at an office space. Like, think about that. This guy was living day in, day out of his truck every day to get jobs, to make jobs and to make things happen. And now he's at a space where he's got like his own desk, and that's an untouched situation that you are still learning and like understanding and stuff like that. But in 5 years, what is your initial goal for your business? Like, what is your plan for the next 5 years?
So for me, based off the direction we're going right now, in the next 5 years, I almost envision the company being double its size. Right now we're at 32, 33 employees. I have in mind already people that are ready to move up, which creates more opportunity for them. And then the people that were with them move upwards as well. That creates more opportunity. So basically in 5 years, with the people we have, if they're still around, and they're part of our team, we're doubling the company in size, in sales, in culture, and everything. And we're gonna be, the next, there's not only right now there's a handful, like maybe 3 or 4 companies that are huge. We're gonna be part of that. We're gonna be part of that handful.
And not just that. And this is a big thing. I just thought about this right now. But not just that he's gonna be one of the biggest companies out there, but, and this is the big but, and it might spark a light in your brain. You're gonna be one of the only companies, and I'm gonna say this, like one of the only companies in California at least, to highlight and record your whole experience, to like say, like, hey, this is where we were when we started, this is where we're at now, and this is where we're gonna be in 5 years from now. Like, you're gonna be like a company that has media down, has everything down. A lot of these companies, you go on their websites, and let's just say it's not the most prettiest thing ever, or they don't stay updated with their content, or they don't hire people to like take care of their stuff to make it look and stand out. But Jose has focused on that from day one, that like you need to stand out in that aspect, and he's going to be one of the only companies when he gets to that point, because he will get to that point, that is able to display that stuff. Like the stuff we're creating right now. Imagine in 5 years, like the stuff that we'll create in 5 years for media wise, like to show to the world, like this is Vivid Landscape. Like, you stand out already because of what we do now with the media aspect. I handle his media. Like, he already stands out, and a lot of people like hit him up all the time. Oh, your Instagram's killing it. Your videos are killing it. I see you on Facebook and it's killing it. Like, and like for me working with him, that was like one of my biggest goals and drives, was like to stand out. Like, he continues to stand out. He continues to be a business that's like, oh wow, look at this business. Like, they look like they got it all together. We don't got it all together, but we paint it really good.
Not close.
And I tell him all the time, because he, there's a lot of businesses out there that also, do the social media stuff and like that. But a lot of businesses are out of the state. Like, a majority of them are out of state businesses. And, we sit down and we're like, how many California, let alone Southern California landscape companies are at the level that you're at? There probably is some that we haven't come across, but to show and display as much as we do on the social media aspect, like, we're only getting started. And I tell them, like, we hit big, like, this summer. We went from like 400 followers to like almost 2,000 followers already at this point. Yeah. Like that shit's nuts. Like to get to that point in less than a year, like we can only imagine 5 years, like where the hell that's gonna be.
Yeah.
And that's awesome that you like already have like a vision and a plan for your business that in 5 years you want to be doubled, in 5 years you just want to be. But where do you want to be in 5 years? That's the real question.
For me, in 5 years, aside from Vivid Landscape, I've always envisioned, like, because I love to help people. Mm-hmm. So, like, getting into the space of, like, giving back to the communities, training, developing people, helping them understand that just like, and I'm saying this because I haven't built anything that crazy yet, mm-hmm. but based off where I grew up, the environment, the people, I feel like I'm like the only one crushing it that big. And I'm talking about there's people that have been in the game for 20, 30 years. 30 years running your lawn care business. And you don't have, you haven't grown it to surpass maybe 1 or 2 routes, 5, 6 employees. That it's just, there's a lot of things that can be changed, your habits, your disciplines, your priorities. I mean, there's a lot of things that they don't understand because they haven't opened up a book, they haven't read it. But I know they want to. I can see it. They want to. One time at a gas station, guy's like, hey, how do you do it? You barely started your business. I've been mowing lawns for 20 years. Brother, work on yourself. Develop yourself. Change your habits. You know how it is. Every gardener, bro, in our city, after work, stops by the liquor store, gets a 12-pack. They got that's cool. But instead of talking about bullshit, you can work on yourself, develop yourself. Because I know people want it. They want more. They're just not willing to get uncomfortable more and do more. Yeah,
uncomfortability is the biggest one. I think uncomfortability is the biggest one.
Because it's tough. You got to read up. Who likes to read books? Yeah. No, it's boring. People like to laugh. They look at TikTok. They're laughing about the dumb shit that people are doing. Mm-hmm. But what does that do for your future? Nothing. You become more stagnant. Your brain closes down. You're not creative. You have to be open to feeding yourself good stuff, healthy stuff in your brain. So for me, I foresee myself in the next 5 years giving back, helping people understand at least what the experiences that I've had in business and helping them market, develop, brand. Because there's a lot of young guys that are hungry, really hungry, but they don't have the direction. Like where do I go? Who do I call? Whatever. A lot of kids have hit me up, not kids, people 30 and under, maybe, whatever, on Instagram. Hey, bro, you're crushing it, dude. Like, hey, I got a question. Do you mind? No, I don't mind. My time is for people. I want to help people, and I'm not a guru. I'm not the best guy in business, but I do know that from anywhere around my city, Vivid Landscape is the only one crushing it that crazy. I gotta say it, man. I see it, and people are just they can't. Their habits are out of line, you know. And one thing I do like that what I've done with the business, it's just inspired other people to kind of follow that route. I've seen guys that used to work for me start and grow their own business, and I don't care, they copy step by step, bro. Like post after post, step, even wearing the same uniforms, everything. That's good.
It's inspiring.
But that inspires them. Yeah. They see what we're doing and they wanna get to where we're at. So they start to follow those steps. But that's called a blueprint. I'm laying down a blueprint for people to be creative in their own way, but it leads them in the direction.
We're working on something. We haven't gotten to the point yet, but we're definitely working on something that obviously Jose on being an entrepreneur and me being a media guy and stuff like that, and also an entrepreneur, we're working on something that we're going to be developing something that's going to help people who are in the same position that he once was. And this information is literally going to be free. Like, we're not going to be looking for payments or any dynamic or stuff like that. We may or may not get a lot of hate from it because of the fact that we're going to be displaying it for free, but we're marking it here and it's being recorded here that this information that we're planning on displaying in the next 5 years, it will be there and it'll be there for free. whether it's through social media, whether it's through YouTube, whether we create our own platform and just create our own website and do our own thing with it, that information is going to be presented to you, because we don't want other people to be in that situation like how he displayed, where they have a vision, they have a dream, but they just can't attain it. Because if you have a vision, you have a dream, you have an admiration, you have something you want to get, there's no limits. The only limits is yourself. So with that being said, thank you for telling us about your story. Thank you for displaying and being open to it. Definitely grasped a lot of information from you that a lot of people are going to better understand and utilize about you, because a lot of people, only know you from like the, hey guys, what's up? Jose here with Vivid Landscape. So
today we're in the city.
Yeah. So definitely a lot of people are going to be listening. Definitely a lot of people are going to be listening to this. And yeah, so thanks for listening. Thanks for being open to it. And any last words before we head out?
I mean, no, just thanks for listening, guys. And always remember, motivation is less than half the way to get there. It's like a sugar rush. You drink a Red Bull, you have a quick sugar rush, but it goes back down. Motivation, it's not there forever. Discipline, habits, and there's other key elements that is going to put you where you want to be. So make sure to pay attention. If you guys want to listen, if you guys want to learn more, feel free to drop a comment. What do you guys want to learn? Ask some questions, and we're here to help, guys.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, tell your friends about this podcast. If you or somebody you know that wants to get into this industry or any industry in general, we can give you a lot of information, help you understand on how to grow. So as always, stay shining, stay grinding. We're out.
Peace.